Ready when you are.
Welcome to El Yunque. In this video, we'll take you with us on a beautiful 5-mile mountain hike. We'll show you some great spots in the area for food and drink, and if we have time, we're gonna hit a couple waterfalls as well. Now let's get going.
Welcome back to Explorcation. In last week's episode, we showed you our experience flying from Orlando to San Juan, renting a car and driving in Puerto Rico, and checking into our Rainforest Airbnb. But we still have 3 of our 4 amazing days in Puerto Rico to show you, and day 2 of that adventure starts now. We woke up at sunrise to enjoy coffee on the terrace and ocean views.
The chickens are back.
And while we could have happily spent hours relaxing at our rainforest retreat, we had an island to explore and only a few days to do it. Our first adventure of the day took us southwest from our Airbnb to the Highway 191 entrance to El Yunque National Forest. And after about 20 minutes of driving up this windy mountain road, we reached the entry to the main recreation area. Shortly after checking in, we drove by La Coca Falls, but we had no time to stop as we had many other adventures planned for the day.
We do want to take a moment to tell you a little bit about accessing the park right now, because it does require reservations in order to access any of the trails identified in green along Highway 191. Once you do have your reservation, you would go to the forest entrance gate here, and we'll tell you a little bit more about that reservation process later.
With a few more miles to our first stop, we made our way further into the mountains.
A lot of twists and turns, but what we would expect.
We've driven on a lot worse, so.
Oh yeah, these are good roads.
All right, guys, we're here at the El Yunque Peak trailhead. It's a 5.2-mile out and back trail that goes up to about 3,400 feet. Other than that, we don't know a whole lot about this trail, except that it's one of the more popular hikes in Puerto Rico, and at some point we're probably gonna get rained on. Now let's get going.
While this hike is rated as challenging, we found it to be far less difficult than the hike we made a couple days later. To see that experience, be sure to tune in for the rest of this series.
Oh, I love the sound of the running water.
It's like perfect temperature too.
Yeah, it's really nice. So we've only been hiking for about 5 minutes, and we already found an awesome lookout point, which is the perfect spot to tell you about our breakfast at Antique Bakery.
One of our favorite things about visiting Puerto Rico is the food, and more particularly, the local bakeries that can be found all over the island. And our bakery stop on this morning was no exception, so let's show you inside. Once inside the Antique Bakery, we were happy to find a menu full of sandwiches and a case full of fresh baked goods. After struggling to decide between all of these amazing looking pastries, we finally made our order. I went with a fruit-filled pastry, while Skylar went with a sandwich on pressed Puerto Rican bread. And of course, we had to get coffees too.
Is this strong?
Yeah, it is.
So what's in this thing?
I don't even know.
Is it strawberry?
I don't hear what it is. It's delicious. And Skylar got a...
Ham and Swiss sandwich.
And that's only half of it too. How is it?
It's good. The bread is delicious. That food and coffee was just what we needed for this 5-mile hike. Now let's get back to the trail.
Back on the trail, things were going pretty smoothly as the weather was cooperating and the trail conditions were good. And as much as we love our Florida beaches, we were really enjoying the change of scenery as it felt amazing to be back in the mountains.
So we think we're about halfway to the peak, and so far the trail really hasn't been that busy, and it's likely for 2 reasons. The first one being we are here on a Thursday morning. The second being you do have to make reservations to access this area of El Yunque, and there's 2 opportunities to make those reservations. The park releases tickets 30 days prior, And once those tickets are gone, then you have to wait until the day prior. So the park does release more tickets 8 a.m. the day prior, and you have to go online to reserve those. We'll make sure to put the link to the website in the description below. Now, if you aren't able to get a reservation during your visit, that's okay, because there are other areas in the rainforest that you can access without a reservation. We're hoping to show you some of those areas later in this episode and also in another episode in this series. So be sure to follow our channel so you won't miss it.
For the second half of our hike up the mountain, we decided to pick up the pace, as we still had 3 more adventures planned for the day and would have to move to fit them all in.
Alright guys, we think we're getting pretty close to the peak about now, and the weather so far has been perfect. There's been a good breeze, and it's also been cool, but no rain as of yet. We have heard that by the time you get to the top of this peak, you're often in the clouds and therefore don't have a very good view, but we're hoping by the time we get there, it'll be good visibility and we'll have a good view to show you.
If you're enjoying this video so far and want to see more of our adventures in Puerto Rico and beyond, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn the notifications on.
Alright guys, so we've reached the point where the El Yunque Trail branches off with the Los Picachos Trail. And as you can see, the El Yunque Trail is currently closed due to maintenance. We had an idea this might be the case, but we were kind of hoping that by the time we got here, it would be back open. Obviously, that's not the case, so we're gonna have to branch off onto the Los Picachos Trail. The good news is that the peak on the Los Picachos Trail is supposed to be almost as high as the El Yunque Peak, and it's also supposed to offer some pretty great views, so let's go check them out.
So I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this in the footage, but up here it's starting to get foggy, so we're getting close to the clouds. So overall, the trail has been super rocky, kind of slick, and sometimes muddy, but not too bad.
We later found out that the mud on this trail was nothing compared to what we'd experienced on our hike a couple days later.
So although I have been known to occasionally hike in flip-flops, I would definitely recommend that you wear some shoes or hiking boots on this trail that have some good ankle support, because this trail is full of slippery rocks. It's very easy to turn an ankle, and it would really suck to have to walk 2.5 miles back down this trail with a sprained ankle.
With only a few hundred more feet to go to the Los Picachos Peak, we eagerly made our way down the trail and up around 50 stairs. And we couldn't have been happier to find that we had the observation platform all to ourselves.
We made it to the top of the Los Pinchos Trail, and we have a nice view of Mount Britain over there.
And while we had heard that we'd likely be in the clouds with limited visibility when we reached this peak, we were delighted to find incredible views in all directions.
You can see how fast the clouds are moving.
Yeah, they're zipping.
So just a second ago, we had a really good view of this area, and the clouds, they come and they go.
While we certainly would have loved to make it to the El Yunque Peak, we were absolutely amazed with the views that the Los Picachos Peak had to offer, and would highly recommend it as a quick detour for anyone hiking to the El Yunque Peak when it reopens.
So we made it to the observation area on the Los Picachos Trail, and we are feeling really fortunate because we made it all the way there without getting rained on, and we had that observation area almost entirely to ourselves for about a half hour. Now it did take us about 2 hours to get all the way there, but we're also stopping quite often to film, so the typical hiker who's keeping a pretty good pace could probably get there in less time than that.
With just a couple stops for recording and going mostly downhill, the hike back down the trail went much more quickly than the hike up.
Now we're almost back to the trailhead, and we're still feeling lucky because we still haven't gotten rained on. We hope that the weather holds out because we're heading to a couple waterfalls next. So the views at the top are really amazing, but this view that's only a few minutes into the hike is pretty cool too. It's just like a mountain of palm trees.
We would love to stay and take in these views a bit longer, but we just felt our first sprinkles, so we're gonna book it back to the car.
I am kind of sad to be rushing through here because it's so pretty, but I have a feeling the next spots will be pretty as well.
Oh yeah.
We're glad we came early because there are a lot more cars parked in the area now, a lot along the road outside of the parking lot area. But they must be on other trails because we didn't see too many people on the one that we were on. So after that hike, we had a quick wardrobe change into our swimsuits and our water shoes. And we're currently at the trailhead to the first waterfall.
Now we had originally planned on going to the Rainforest Cafe after our hike because it's right next to the trailhead and we knew we were gonna be hungry. But we're already an hour behind schedule, so we decided instead we'd just eat the bag of plantain chips in our car.
I love chips. Now hopefully that means we will get to show you all 3 of the waterfalls.
The first of those 3 waterfalls was the Juan Diego Falls, which is located just 5 minutes up the road from the Yunque Peak trailhead. From our research, we knew this waterfall included an easily accessible lower waterfall and a harder to access upper waterfall, and of course we had plans to see them both. We found the lower waterfall to be beautiful, but also quite popular, and after a few minutes enjoying it, we were off to find the upper falls.
Oh, whoa, yeah, we want to go up here.
We soon found the hike to the upper falls to be somewhat challenging and quite confusing.
I'm not really sure where this is taking us.
Yeah, me neither. If the water starts getting quieter, then we probably want to turn back.
All right, now we're on the right path to the next level of the waterfall. We tried an unknown path. It was not successful, but thankfully we did not get too far. We got confirmation that this does lead to the waterfall. Oh look, you can already see it. You do have to climb over this downed tree to get there, so we're up for the challenge.
We quickly realized that the hike to the upper waterfall was absolutely worth the effort, as it was larger and much less busy than the lower falls. And while I had no plans on getting into the chilly water on this day, Skylar couldn't wait to cool off under the falls.
Well,
Feels pretty good.
so I told Skylar that I absolutely was not getting in the waterfall today. That changed pretty quickly. Do you think you could resist going under that waterfall? I sure couldn't. That was so much fun. I'm really sad to leave here because this waterfall was gorgeous, but Skylar says the other ones might be just as beautiful. All right. This clay is slick.
After making it back down to our car, we began heading northwards out of the forest, but not before making a quick roadside stop to view La Coca Falls. While located just 5 miles away off the eastern edge of Yunque, our next destination required exiting the forest and driving much further to get there. But we sure didn't mind the extra driving, as we found the Puerto Rican countryside to be absolutely beautiful.
So we're trying to get to this second waterfall. We have no idea if we're in the right spot. We just had GPS coordinates to navigate to, and we hear a waterfall. We found what looks like a trail and kind of a parking area, but we don't know for sure. So we're gonna follow this trail and hopefully it leads to a waterfall.
So we're walking to try to find Las Tinajas. Not really sure if we're gonna find it or not, but wish us luck. We found a short trail. We found some small rapids in the river, but no waterfall. All right guys, so waterfall number 2 was kind of a bust. We did eventually find the parking area for it. It was $5 to park, which we were totally fine with. However, we were too late to go to the waterfall, but we did hear that it has like a waterfall slide and also a rope swing, so it did sound pretty cool. But we do have one more waterfall that we're gonna try to make it to.
And thankfully, our last waterfall stop was just a scenic 8-mile drive away.
There are so many animals everywhere here. Oh, I'm scared.
Before we knew it, we had arrived at Charco El Hippie, which we couldn't wait to explore.
Let's go see this waterfall. So the parking for El Hippie was a lot easier to find than that last waterfall, but it did take us a while to get here. We had to drive on several windy, narrow roads. Now the parking here is $5, but it is located in part of El Yunque that you do not have to make reservations for.
Once parked, visitors to Charco El Hippie will have an easy but scenic walk down to the water.
I can already hear the waterfall.
With the sound of the rushing water getting louder and louder, we knew that our final waterfall destination was close.
Wow, that's huge!
After scoping out the falls from above, we made our way down to the water, where we found just 2 other visitors at the time of our arrival. While we weren't blown away by the size of the waterfall at Charco El Hippie, there was no denying the absolute beauty of this tropical sanctuary. And after a few minutes of exploring, a light rain began and we soon found that we had the place entirely to ourselves.
So we finally got our first Puerto Rican rainstorm of the day, but thankfully where we're at is completely dry.
So Skylar decided to go and get in the water, and I'm gonna stay here where it's dry. It's pretty crazy that we have this whole area all to ourselves. So Skylar is making his way over to that rope swing. I think I am gonna do the rock scramble over that way. Ah, he made it! Oh, that's cool.
What's been your favorite spot on this day of adventure? Would you prefer hiking to beautiful views on the El Yunque Peak Trail, taking a natural shower at Juan Diego Falls, or enjoying the tranquility of Charco El Hippie? Let us know in the comments.
Ah, Skylar likes to freak me out by swimming close to that.
Thankfully, the current looked much worse than it actually was, and Skylar was easily able to stay on the right side of the waterfall.
The sun is starting to set, which means it's time to leave El Hippie, but man, what a great way to end an awesome day. We're kind of glad we actually did get to visit the last waterfall because it gave us more time to spend here, and once again, we had the place all to ourselves. But now it's time to go get some food, and we're hoping to find an authentic Puerto Rican spot, so we'll see you there next.
Our search for delicious and authentic Puerto Rican cuisine led us to the northeast corner of the island and the city of Fajardo. Here we found Calizo Kiosco, and with its mofongo sign out front and Puerto Rico flag mural, we had no doubt that we had found the place we were looking for. With a huge menu full of many things we'd never heard of, it took us quite a while before we decided on our orders. First up was the drinks, which included a fresh grapefruit juice for me and a passion fruit juice for Skylar, with a splash of Don Q on top. And while my juice did not include any rum, I found it to be both delicious and refreshing. Next up was the fried yuca, which came on a bed of salad and stuffed with marinated churrasco steak. Absolutely starving from our active day, we both wasted no time devouring our appetizer, which we both agreed was nothing short of amazing. Next up was the mixed seafood mofongo, topped with crab, scallops, and octopus, which came highly recommended by the restaurant staff. And while this wasn't the first mofongo that we'd tried, I can say without question that it was the best. And just in case you need a second opinion on that, I think it's safe to say that Skylar would agree. We hope you can join us over the next couple of weeks for many more Puerto Rico adventures. Episodes will be posted on our Puerto Rico playlist, which you can access by clicking here right now. Thanks for watching.